Let's get this party started. Hi, my name's Lyor Cohen, and I want to introduce Funkmaster Flex, who's going to join me tonight. Come on, Flex. And I so appreciate when Erica asked me to do this, because I love the fact that I'm a Cane. So, yes. So, welcome to everybody here to the second largest campus of Google outside of Silicon Valley. We are committed to New York. This building, the next building, the building after is Google buildings. There's thousands of Googlers here. I work at YouTube and Google. I'm the global head of music for both Google and YouTube. And I'm so happy to have you guys all here joining me, especially on such a rainy day. So thank you again for coming out. Flex, how did you get your first gig?
I'm supposed to interview you today, and it's not going to work.
All right, okay.
I almost fell for it, Lyor. I almost fell for it. Okay. So, Lyor, I mean, I'd like to know this because I don't know. What was your first job?
My first job was I actually took a stab at being a shrimp farmer. I know, you guys. So my first roommate at the University of Miami, part of what makes University of Miami so great is the students that make up the student body. So I was the only Southern Californian that actually went to the U that year. And I met my first roommate, which was the grandson of the president of Ecuador. And one year, he came back and he told me that his uncle loved shrimp so much that he dug a hole in his backyard and started growing shrimps. And the next holiday, he came back and he says, well, you know that little ditch he built out the back door? It's now 1.5 miles wide. So, and it was the beginnings of the shrimp farming industry. So I actually went down there thinking, you know, the U has an incredible marine biology department, and I went and busted through a few doors and found some guy who was studying the reproduction of shrimps. And so I convinced him to join me and my old roommate, and I actually went to Ecuador for about 6 months and tried to, my first entrepreneurial, it wasn't actually my first entrepreneurial effort. I actually sold lemonade at the Coconut Grove Art Fair, okay? There's a guy named John who actually knew my 2 classmates. John, say hi. We went to school at the same time. So Coconut Grove had a big art fair, and I remember hauling lemons all the way to Coconut Grove. Now, you don't know this, but back when I went to school, to get to Coconut Grove from the University of Miami, you had to go through a really rough neighborhood. And I was hauling my lemons, and my 2 classmates was dragging their bench through the hood, and we were on the way to make a killing. But anyhow, after that didn't work, my mother... No, that worked big time. Lemonade in Miami works all day, every day. It's hot down there. So my first legitimate job, and I don't like calling it a legitimate job because I feel like being an entrepreneur is heavenly. It's fantastic. So my first paycheck from someone was Bank Leumi, the National Bank of Israel. And I was a financial analyst for the first 6 months. I was making $14,500 a year.
Notice he remembered the number.
No windows. And it was actually the era that the Shah of Iran fell, and all the Jewish people from Persia went straight to Beverly Hills. And they came with diamonds and cash. And so I was actually like a cashier for them, like no windows, just count the money. I was miserable. I went to the University of Miami. I have a degree in international finance and marketing, and they got me counting cash. So that was not sexy, and I went on from there. So,
Why did you choose to attend the University of Miami, Lyor?
Wow. So, you guys aren't really going to believe this, and I hope you don't hold it against me. I actually threw a dart of the United States east of the Mississippi River, and I hit Key West, and I ended up at the U.
That's not the answer you guys expected, right?
Okay, and that's really the truth. I landed, first of all, I landed at 6:45 a.m. on the first day of school. I'm a golfer. I had my clubs, and I had 2 suitcases. And nobody told me my first semester was on top of the year in January, and no one told me that it could really get cold in Miami. And it was one of those like high 30 days, just cracking dawn. And I remember running with my suitcases about 40 yards and then running back for my golf clubs. And that was my first day. And I actually, my dorms were the big cement dorms. I forgot help me out. The prison-looking, tall cement blocks. Heck, in Stanford, it doesn't. Okay, thank you. Thank you, John. So, yeah, that was me.
Okay, so looking back now, is there a moment or experience from your time at UM that really influenced you, Lyor?
100%. The diversity of the student body every day reminded me that the world was bigger than where I was. Meeting all those Central American and South American Jewish people was just a gift to me, because, to me, going to university is not just about showing up to the classroom. It's actually learning to understand that this planet is huge and the opportunities are huge. And it was really remarkable getting to spend time with so many people. My first love of my life was a girl from Italy. And was a Cane, and so I went to visit her several times in Italy at her home, and it was the University of Miami's diversity of student body is, in my opinion, second to none. You have Europeans, you have South Americans, you have Central Americans. I'm not sure if have the Asians figured out that the U is a good spot to go to? Huh? Yeah? It wasn't big back then, trust me. But the University of Miami is now becoming a world-class institution. when I went back in the day, we had a very difficult reputation of being a big party school. I didn't actually see that part of the University of Miami because I wasn't a traditional student, and my family were taking bets how long I was going to end up being flung out of the school and sent back home. And I was determined to do very well at college, and I did. And I had the best time. It was the beginning of them getting their sports identity together. I was the year before we won the national championship. It was just a remarkable period of time for me.
You know, Lyor, in hearing you speak, I'm going to stray from this list for 1 second, this piece of paper. What was your musical taste? Because I want to know. What was your musical taste? This is college. This is 78. This is 79. What's appealing to you? What's exciting you when you listen to it at that time?
So
you saw his whole thing change?
it's a very, very good question. First of all, I come from a remarkable and musical family. My father was the first person to put an intercom system in the house, connected to his turntable. So I grew up listening. Music was pumped throughout the house. It was chamber music, opera, and Dixieland jazz. And we were in full motion. I'm actually the black sheep of the family because all my brothers were record collectors and were so deeply involved in their musical taste. I had no posters on my wall. I collected no records. I was more of a sports guy. And when I got to the University of Miami, but I was highly influenced by my brothers. All three brothers were always defending their taste, but I was the voyeur and had the ability, none of them would ever see that anybody else had any taste. So none of them visit any of their rooms to listen to music. I was the one going in.
Is this older or younger?
I have one older, two younger.
Okay.
So I was the one going in each one's rooms, listening to what they had to offer. So I went from Janis Joplin to the Stones to Led Zeppelin to Sam Cooke. It was very diverse depending on my brother. The same thing happened at university, that I was on a floor of a bunch of music aficionados that had deep opinions why their music was better than everybody else's, and everybody was guarding themselves, but I was the one going into each of the dormitory rooms listening to what music that they were repping so hard. I also became the entertainment director of the University of Miami at that time and put on some concerts.
Here we go.
No.
Smell it.
I want you to understand that my effort was to be democratic and thoughtful to the student body. It wasn't me inflicting my taste on the student body. So when I booked Loggins in Messina, Marvin, come on, man. You know who they are. Loggins and Messina. Don't make me feel old. John, I mean, okay, just... So, depending on the dorm room, I could hear Free Bird for like 30 minutes to, traditional Peruvian mountain traditional music. So I had a very diverse palette of taste.
Of music. I enjoyed it. I'm learning so much about Lyor today. This is amazing for me. Okay, so Lyor, how would you describe your your leadership style? How would you describe it?
My leadership style is I believe in people's capacities. And so I actually delegate way more authority to people who don't actually believe that they're capable of doing it. And I believe that when you test people's courage and boundaries, they actually rise to the occasion. So I highly recommend this, style. It takes a lot of courage. You have to be okay being wrong. But I've been rarely wrong because people have another gear and another capacity to stand up, especially when they feel a part of a team. And, when you actually give someone a responsibility much more than what their resume says that they're capable of doing, it's almost the same feeling when Rick Rubin left Def Jam in 1988. We couldn't have been hotter as a company. And he said sayonara and went to Los Angeles. And I had this beautiful brand called Def Jam Recordings, and it was hot as it was a cultural and important record label. And every day I felt a huge responsibility not to ruin or tarnish this brand. And I rose to the occasion. I remember rising to the occasion. I believe people can rise to the occasion. I believe in delegating authority. I believe in creating a team spirit. I believe in giving clarity to an organization. The biggest gift a leader can do is bring clarity to an organization, and also live in positivity and praise people rather than worrying about dinging people or finding fault. I spend enormous amounts of time praising people and building them up and giving them the respect, the accolades that they deserve. And the more authority you get, the more you rise in senior management, the more of a servant you should be. And not many people understand that, when I was running a label, whether it was Island Def Jam, when I moved to actually running a music group at the Warner Music Group, I went from being served to being the servant. And a great leader actually understands that you're here to serve your colleagues and help make them better and more successful.
What would be the best advice for your fellow Canes just starting their career or transitioning into a new career? What advice would you have for them, Lyor?
Gosh, I want you to know that I had a very unique upbringing. Many people have heard this story before, that my parents actually encouraged me to avoid work at all costs. I know it sounds strange, but it's true. I remember my mother actually sitting down with me and saying, two of the ugliest letters are in one word, the W and the K. And work, when someone invented that name, work at that time was someone bent over the land in harsh sun. That was work. And she said, you were born in an era and a gift of parents that are prepared to support you, please, please, please invest in finding your passion. If you find your passion, you'll be a very rich person. And she wasn't referring to money. And I'm literally 39 years working very hard, but it went by in a nanosecond. I actually am shocked about the speed in which my life has gone. And I believe it's a direct correlation to the passion that I found in my most time-consuming part of my life, and that is my work. And so I encourage everyone to find what absolutely, I'm excited when I wake up. I hardly want to go to sleep. It's when you find something that you're deeply passionate about, it's just an incredible gift. I could tell you a story that a few weeks ago, I was at a PTA conference. And whenever you're at a PTA conference, the parents come with the name tag, and the first question they ask is, who's your kid? And I asked, who's your kid? And they said, my kid's Bob. Next question is, so what do you do? And I'm in New York, and it's littered with a lot of financial people, and I work for Goldman Sachs. The same thing goes the whole night. I'm talking, they're either working at Bank of America or Goldman Sachs or this or that. They finally said, so who's your kid? I said, B's my kid. So what do you do? And I said, well, I help artists and songwriters make a living making music. And it's like a mic drop. It's like, at that moment, and to me, that's how I wake up. Every day I wake up thinking that my efforts help artists and songwriters make a living making music. And I cherish that. So my best advice is find your passion, invest in finding your passion. I think that's one of the things that the universities actually should teach kids. They have all these networks of meeting people, but investing in your passion, finding your calling is something very difficult. I was very fortunate, very lucky. I remember sitting at my parents' kitchen table, and I told my mom, these people, those people, in New York, they talk instead of sing. And my dad was stroking his beard, confused. And they want me to come to New York. They offered me a piece of the company. And my father says, when did that happen? Well, it happened over the phone. You mean you never met them? Well, I met the brother, and the brother told the guy who owns the thing, and we spoke, and he said, come on to New York, be my partner. My dad said, son, there's an instrument called a contract, and I'm certain you're not going to need it. But in case things go wrong, at least you know what you've agreed to, and you could pull it out of the drawer. And my mother cut him off and said, contract, no contract, go to New York. What's the worst thing that could happen? You'll come home. That's the true story. Right now, I could not tell you what I'd be doing had I not left and went to those people that talked instead of sung in New York City. I couldn't tell you what I would be doing. I have no clue.
You know, Lyor is a very modest person. I'm gonna break Lyor down for a little bit for a lot of you. I've been in this music business close to 25 years. I wouldn't sit and do this with anyone. Never seen me sit and do it. this man here has created more opportunity in the music business for not just artists, DJs, music people to do their dream and not just because, you can do something and you can, you can follow your dream, Lyor, but sometimes you can get shafted in the process or you can go down a wrong road. Lyor, and I speak from it from a person who was assigned to him at one time. It's very scary to go in this guy's office and you want to talk about it. You feel intimidated. But he doesn't just sign you and try to get the most out of you and leave you for dead. He tells you the truth about yourself. And in the music business, a lot of people, the truth is a very hard thing to take when you're riding high. But Lyor will give you the truth, whether you're doing good or you're doing bad, or if you look like you're on your way to messing up. That's an important time to speak to someone. Lyor, you've done that for many, many music people, many artists for over 20, 25 years. I listen to you and he's humble, but you've done an amazing job, not just in music, my brother, and just to know you, to love you, and music business thanks you, my brother. And I know we veered off, but I just want to really get that in.
I got a little spuches. I got a little spuches just now. Thank you. That's Yiddish. Spuches means a little feeling. I could have actually got emotional just there. Thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Should we open up to the floor for?
This is that awkward moment where. Okay. I'll repeat it.
The MMA, you're in the business of helping musicians, artists, and songwriters.
Yeah.
Where's that going to end up? Is that going to be a very good thing?
The MMA is the association.
Music Monetization.
Yeah, Music Monetization Act. So, that's a very good question. It also ties into Article 13 and all the things that are happening in Europe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, one of the things that the industry, first of all, I have to say that as an industry has gone through such tumultuous and difficult times, so many people have lost their jobs. And remember, it's not just the people who lost their jobs, but there are two people up for that one job. So the survivor actually prepared their minds that they were going to be the ones let go. So when they were the ones that actually survived, they didn't celebrate. They felt numb because all the things, the heartache that their other associate was going through, they put on themselves the preparation when two people are up for one job. And that happened for nearly 20 years. So a lot of heartache and pain and suffering have gone. But ultimately, the digital revolution is a huge bonus and plus for the industry. Unfortunately, the industry had a really sweet thing going, and it was a walled distribution network. But that walled distribution network, I would argue, brought a lot of fortune for a lot of people, and it was a terrific era. But it will pale to the liberation that artists have in the digital revolution. And what I mean by that is, think about the insane cost that CD was. Manufacturing, shipping, accounting, obsolescence, retail exposure, on and on and on. That's gone away. So the opportunity for the artists and the labels to capture that money is going to be just a tremendous net positive. I think the biggest thing that happened that people don't understand is that this business was once a singles business, 45's business. Someone said, boy, if we pour more oil, we could make a bigger plate, we could put more songs, and we could charge more. So the album was invented to sell for a higher ARPU. So the digital revolution actually first victim was the album. And not all artists are meant to make albums. I would argue that very few, and I think we would have had more Led Zeppelin records if they didn't have to climb Mount Everest every year to make an album body of work. And that if they had an inspiration, an artist could have an inspiration now, go downstairs, record it, and it will be shipped globally without any cost around the world. That's a huge net positive. But getting there, there's a lot of friction, a lot of learning new muscle behavior, new understanding of what is the definition of a new record company, a new collection society, a new publishing company. I don't think that those answers are fully formed. And if they're not formed, everybody's arguing over everything as the disruption occurs and things get settled. But net, I'm sorry it took such a long time to answer, and I probably didn't even answer your question. But I think the net benefit for artists, songwriters, labels, DSPs, and consumers are going to be a big positive. I think the biggest question in the digital revolution is be careful for what you wish for. We broke the levee. Now there's 1 billion bands swimming around our ankles. Which band is the one we're supposed to ride with? And that makes curation even more important. So all hail to curation.
Thank God for
Did you like how I brought that right back to you?
I love the way you brought it around. I felt it. It was in the chest. Who else would
Charles.
stand up?
Charles, I got the
Okay,
mic.
Charles. Hi.
First of all, I would like to say I commend your career progress from the 80s to now. You isolated and you always knew where technology and also where the person's supposed to be at. So that's why you are with Google and YouTube. Now let me get to my question. Question in the future, like from DATs to cassettes to CDs to vinyls to what's the next biggest play for technology, also banking and law to get to another plateau? Because nobody did not know streaming media was going to take it to this level.
So I'm a music man, a music person. I don't care about banking, and I don't care about the digital revolution as it relates to any other segment. I only care about music, period, end stop. And I believe that this is your new record store. All the records, you don't have to go wait for the release. You don't have to stand in line in the cold rain to get in. But I do believe that we're only at the 2.0 version of this streaming service. I think right now, streaming services are like echo chamber of your taste, and I don't believe in that. Because when you went to the record store and you made a beeline to the De La Soul album, you bumped into Tribe and maybe the leaders of the new school on the way out. And it was that gift of the surprise that was joyful. You went in with a mission and you came out with a surprise. And I think the 3 point, 4 point, 5 point 4.0 version of streaming is how do we layer in the surprise instead of the algorithm simply giving you what you already like and more of it. I think that's great, but there's so much more. I want to give a shout out to Doug. Doug is in the back holding up the wall. Doug, okay? He's in charge of figuring this out, the 3.4.0 version of how these huge platforms, these huge AI companies layer in the beautiful moment of surprise, a gift.
So, how did you feel about just putting so much pressure on Doug right there? Doug, you all right, bro?
Yeah, Doug's got it, baby. He's got it. He wakes up every day, knows exactly what he has to do. Okay? It's a mix between the algorithm and human touch. You can't beat that. That's a winning combination.
And now I just experienced leadership, right? That right? You saw it. Who else? I know someone else had. I know you had a question. Go right ahead.
Thank you for sharing your stories, both of you. Lyor, I know a few people in the music world, Charles Koppelman, Marty Bandier, and with your career compared to theirs, you kind of are finishing, well, maybe not finishing, but in your last, let's say, stage of your career, you're at a company, one of the largest in the world. Why did you choose Google to take your talents?
So the largest consumption of music in the world by a million miles happens in Google and YouTube. So you could put all the other services combined, and they don't represent 60% combined. So first of all, I just want you to know you're stuck with me for a while because I don't plan on retiring. I have no interest in retiring. I'm not.
Well, I was going to tell him.
I'm not at the back end.
I let the question fly. I was going to tell him.
I'm not at the back end of this is not my last hurrah. I have a record company that I cherish. I wake up every morning thinking that maybe today I'm going to bump into someone that's going to change pop culture. And one day I'll get back to that. But in the meanwhile, I wanted diversity in distribution. Because if there's 4 true players in distribution, that means the artists and the labels are going to win. If there's 2, the distributors will capture all the value. And I believe Google and YouTube are incredibly capable to be one of the 4. Hopefully there will be more, but the 4 that I see is Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and Amazon. When you have 4 distributors, all the value goes back to the creators. And my dream is that we have, my thesis is the world's better with more music, more quality music. And, you know, in the last 20 years, I know there's been many Kurt Cobains that have been at their parents' kitchen table that got talked out of being a musician because of the decline of the business, and they're probably dentists right now, you know. And no knock on dentists, but rock, paper, scissors, I'd rather have a few more Kurt Cobains.
Hello.
Hello.
Just making sure this works. First of all, I'm completely starstruck by both of you guys. I don't know what I would do without Lyor. I definitely don't know what I would do without Flex. I can't say your name without saying Funkmaster Flex, Funkmaster 3 times. Like, I mean, listen to the mixtape right now. So thank you guys for being here. Thank you for paving the way at the U and for continuing the legacy. This is an amazing opportunity. So one of the things I want to talk to you about or ask you about is, you know, you mentioned your passion for the music and how your palette has evolved. Clearly it's evolved. What also has evolved is your ability to find these treasures in a world where, like, as you mentioned, there's millions of people making music right now. tell us a little bit about how you stumbled on the artist in the group now known as Migos, and how your kind of taste has evolved from Sam Cooke, Led Zeppelin, to Migos.
Okay, well, first of all, I want you to understand that I'm a lover, not a hater. That's fundamental. I'm a lover, not a hater. So what is a hater? A hater is a person that is playing the odds to be right, not suffering through the odds to be right. Okay? So a hater's position, natural position is you can't catch anything in this position. Okay? I'm a catcher. I think anything could happen at any given time. Anything. Remember, in 1983 when I started, I had no experience, no money, no clout, and I got high. Any one of those is enough not to build a business. But because of the arrogance of the music industry, they didn't go 45 blocks to see that the demand outpaced the supply. All they needed to do was get out of their building and go uptown and see those kids are lit. You didn't have to understand the music or anything, but they were like this, so they couldn't catch it. They were like this. So they allowed me to incubate an artist develop, which is one of the things that is the biggest missing thing in the music industry, not just for artists, but for executives. So after many years, they decided that, oh shit, they better get into rap music. But by the time they did that, I didn't get high anymore. I had a lot of clout. I kind of knew what I was doing, and I had capital. And so I remember that they stood like this and allowed me to learn on the job. I'm never going to let that happen to me. So if you said, you know, there's this thing happening in the Rio Grande, and they're dancing like, there's a kid out of Nashville that's doing some rap music that's Little Nas X. I'm in hot pursuit. I'm on the next plane. Okay? So the difference between a lover and a hater is I'm ready to go 0 for 9 to get Public Enemy. Okay? I'm ready to suffer through 9 casualties and 9 hard aches and sad stories to get to Public Enemy.
I know you mentioned Migos, and you know you might not find a similarity, but I bet I'm gonna tell you there's a similarity between Run DMC and Migos. Look at your face. Look at your face. Because in Queens, you know, before they were Bronx, Manhattan, DC, Virginia, Baltimore, they're Queens. Those are 3 guys in Queens that are making a name for themselves. Now, Migos is now that monster, but when he first signed the 300, right, it was, here's Migos, here's another 3 brothers in a small place in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? So they're really being developed, they're really being found in the same stage, right? And then Drake did a verse, or a verse with Migos earlier on, or you wouldn't even have, I don't even know if that took them very far. So, but the end result of the 2 artists, you know, you may have your passion for that thing, But the end result of the two artists is still pop. It's just that the pop game now in 2020 is a whole different pop game than 1986. You know, it's different, but it is actually similar. And I did notice when he said Sam Cooke too, because I'm a Sam Cooke fan. So I was impressed that he knew about it. But even a Sam Cooke, he flew under the, he flew under the radar. He wasn't above that radar. I hope that helps to answer your question, my brother. Anyone else?
Yep. Hello. Lyor, Funk Flex, thanks for doing this. This is great. So, Lyor, for you, what does it mean to be a cane?
A what?
A cane, a hurricane, Miami hurricane.
A cane. I'm proud every day I'm a cane. I walk around proud. Like, it's something I never, by the way, I come from a hippie Jewish family. The first time I ever bumped into a Jap was at the University of Miami. I was traumatized. Literally traumatized. But for some reason, being associated to a group of people from so many different backgrounds. But I have to tell you, our football team was the thread that brought us all together. I felt so proud to be a Cane. And, I'm really happy with the growth in our stature as a university and an education, high quality education. But I want a national championship. I want a national championship. It's important to me, and it's important to our student body to get our swagger back.
Say that again, please.
And put it on repeat?
Hi, so thank you, as everyone has said. So I actually graduated with a degree in music business in '05, which was right when everything was happening with the digital, this and that, and where is the industry going to go? And I was just wondering what your advice would be to someone who's entering the music business, not as an artist, but as a person coming in to work in the business, trying to make their way, and what the best venue is to go and grow in the industry at this time.
I always hear this voice of someone saying, it's better to be average in a booming industry than to be brilliant in a declining industry. Is there such a saying? Is that, anybody heard that? It sounds good, right? I thought I heard that. But the music industry is entering its golden age right now. Fortunes are going to be made right now. True fortunes are going to be made. Now, I don't know if you remember, but all the major entertainment companies, their source of capital came from their record companies. Okay? Many of the massive media companies today, their cash came from music. Okay, if you know the DNA of the history of the music business of Warner, Time Warner, before that was music. That's what Steve Ross was able to pay for all the things that he bought. It was music. I believe we're entering the golden age. Fortunes are going to be made. Get in the music business by hook or by crook. This tide is rising, and it's rising rapidly. And I believe, I'm not suggesting to be motivated simply for money, but it's, like I said, it's better to be jumping on an industry that's growing than declining. And it's growing now, and needs fresh people, fresh minds, fresh ideas. So
Let me see. Well, I think I remember Lyor in his earliest Def Jam stages. You know what? Is everyone familiar with Def Jam Records? I want to just make. Can I get? I just want to get a hand up so I understand the familiarity. I'm gonna take you further. Do you remember when it was purple? When it was purple and not black? The purple label. See how it thin out? Okay, two.
Rick would fight him. It was magenta.
You're right. You're right. Lyor always. Maybe I've seen him in a couple stages. If people are familiar with Run DMC, I saw Lyor Russell at that time as an outsider because I was carrying someone's records, but I got to go up to their first office, and if I don't remember Lyor being a yeller, but I remember. Well, maybe the YouTube employees don't feel that, but I didn't strike him as a yeller, but and I never told Lyor this story either. I think even in me and running into him, he did pick my brain and just ask a couple questions. He didn't know me from a can of paint, but I was with people that were important, which makes me feel that Lyor definitely looks at people around him or around people to kind of see what's the next thing. I witnessed him reinvent, Def Jam, which had kind of went to a lull. Sorry, Lyor, I didn't mean to say it, but we could
Cold as ice. Cold as ice.
There was a lull. I mean, after the LL era, and
the Afros.
The Afro. I was a big Afros fan.
Family.
I didn't like that one.
BWP. It was horrible. One stiff after another.
One girl was very cute in that group. Okay. All right. So some of the to me, the Jay-Z, Ja Rule, DMX, that era of not just the music but the rollout, I think was very influential in the game, especially during the holiday time, which, I know that Lyor was big on. Before those artists, I didn't feel that people were big on that. And even those artists that I name, and I'm going to be 1,000 with you, Ja Rule was in a small group, the Cash Money Millionaires, and it was a stiff. I looked at him like, you signing Ja Rule? And Irv Gotti, I didn't think that would be successful, but they saw something, they felt something. Jay-Z, that Rockefeller, because if you're talking about the time you heard me on the radio, I know exactly what time you're talking about. So I'm going to break that time down to you a little bit. I want to give you a Rockefeller Records story, and I'm going to give you an accurate story. I met Jay and Dame. This is before Lyor. They were on. The label was called Freeze. You seem like I'm drawing your memory, right? Freeze / Rockefeller / Priority Records. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, I didn't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean. But I want to explain something to you in that label. That label was a label that used to have EPMD and a couple big artists, but they were well past their prime. And the probably only connection they had at that point was they still had access to the stores to ship the vinyl. That's it. No credibility left. And Ain't No Nigga. Sorry, but that's the name of the song. All right? So was a song that came out that was very big for Rockefeller. I would never take the credit for breaking it, but I had saw a young man playing that song, and I asked him the name of it, and I asked him to give it to me. And it didn't even have a clean version. And this is on Priority Records, and the record was local. Record didn't go past Philly. And this is important for you to know about Rockefeller. There was a soundtrack, a movie soundtrack. What was that movie? It was
Nutty Professor.
Nutty Professor. So that song would have stayed local, and you would have never, ever, I lie to you not, you wouldn't have heard of Jay-Z past the George Washington Bridge. What happened is Lyor, Kevin Lyors at the time, and I'm even going to say a young man by the name of Mike Kaiser. I remember them calling me saying where I got the record from, what happened, but they did with the Irv Gotti is very instrumental in this movement as well. They put that song on the Nutty Professor soundtrack. You know what that did for an independent label that was going broke? It gave them a $500,000 video. It gave them distribution, and it put them on a soundtrack. How many millions did that soundtrack sell?
Benugos.
It put them on a multi-million sales in terms of a soundtrack to sell and to get exposure because all the big artists were on there. Hence, Rockefeller Records is born. So in me telling that story is to say that's one, right? And then there wasn't even a deal yet. That was a single deal, correct? Am I saying this right,
Yes.
Leo? Correct me if I'm wrong
No,
anywhere.
that's correct.
It was a single deal now. So now you get interest. Now you get to be on the Bad Boy tour. Now Puffy calls you to be on the tour because your record is doing well. Now your records are playing across the country nationally. And now you get funded, and now you get a partner. And I'm going to tell you something. During that era of 1995 to 98, everybody's familiar with a person named Puff Daddy, right? This was Puff Daddy country. Biggie, Mace, that was it. If Rockefeller Records didn't get picked up by Def Jam Records or a big conglomerate, they would have got swallowed up. And I'm going to tell you, during even Lyor, I remember that Bad Boy era when Puffy was so big. And I remember I used to go up to that Def Jam office. They never said one word bad about Puff. They never said one word bad about Bad Boy. I would leave the building, they'd say, Flex, we're coming. We're going to have some things, Flex, we're coming. And I think that that's great about Lyor is that even when he wasn't the big fish on the hill, he was still thinking about how do I drive down this road and take my artists and establish them. And because Bad Boy was doing so well, and I know Lyor doesn't like this story, because Bad Boy was doing so well, hence comes Ja Rule, Jay-Z, and DMX, because Def Jam had to figure out a way how to move to the left. I hope I answered your question good. Okay.
Hello, Lyor. Hello, Flex. How are you?
Excellent.
My name is Serena, and I wanted to find out, how does an aspiring singer-songwriter get on your calendar? Office hours, give advice, something. No, honestly, like how does someone
Oh, she's
do
a
that?
singer.
Singer-songwriter.
So my email is Lyor@google.com.
Got it.
So be patient and persistent because I really get a lot of emails. I hand it out like it's water. And my natural vetting process is when someone reaches out and I don't reply, they never reach back out, and that's they didn't want it that bad. So I'm really busy. Like I got hit by a tidal wave of opportunity and work. Also have children. I'm married. You know, my life doesn't evolve. It's not a linear life. So be persistent, and we'll get it on the calendar.
Thank you. And Flex, I have a question for you. How does someone get played on your station?
I should have expected that.
Yeah.
You know what? I might be a little bit more unorthodox in comparison to. Well, where are you from?
I'm actually here, Bronx, New York.
What part of Bronx?
Boogie Down, East 168th Street, College Avenue.
I'm from 233rd White Plains Road in the Bronx.
Oh, so I know exactly.
Yeah, I love the Bronx. I'm big
That's
on.
how I feel about the U.
Yes.
Okay?
I was a student of music and jazz major there as well. So
You from the U? Well,
It was crazy. I'm big on local artists. Me personally.
I'm big on canes.
yeah. Well, I'm both. So that's all right. I'm both.
I'm big on local artists, so with me that works well with me. I look sometimes local before I look far, and I'm a firm believer with new artists. It's not always about the song that you might have at the moment. If I can hear some good quality in it and some good things, I'll play it. I may not play it in the superstar position, but I'll play it. Because sometimes if a person has talent, sometimes it's about you meeting the next producer or the next writer or someone that can help you.
And that's what I'm looking for too.
I think that's where the game has changed now. I don't know if there's always a smash from the door with people. I think it's a stepping stone, but I think you should the best advice I can give you, and I want to be brutally honest with you, is don't let anyone tell you need to pay to get your music played. They're lying to you, and they're taking advantage of you. You should be able to give your music to people, especially at my level, and them give you an honest opinion, whether it's good or bad. And I like people that are persistent, so I'm okay with persistence. So I think you should be persistent, and every level is a level of success. If you can get the guy at the bar to play it, that's a level of success. If you can get a bigger club to play it and then work your way to the radio, is successful. So don't give up.
And I've actually had both of those opportunities too. DJ Gully played my songs. DJ Gully, he has played my songs as well.
You can send it to me. I have an easy email, djfunkflex@gmail. I do listen. I don't want you to think that I don't.
No problem.
You can send it.
I appreciate both of you. Thank you.
I have time for one more question because I'm going to go to Brooklyn to see Lizzo. Anybody know about Lizzo? Yeah. Great artist. Who wants to do that? Make it good.
Hi. First, thank you so much for being here and putting this all together. This question, I guess, for both of you. So, I graduated music education, and a story that I've always kept in the back of my mind is that Elvis, he was a good student, but he failed music class. And I always take that as he didn't fail music class, but music class failed him. I just want to know, before you got to the U, what inspired you or maybe even held you back in your own musical education, like in a traditional setting? And what could music education as a field do as we're farther into the 21st century?
So my name is Lyor Cohen. It's a very Hebrew name. And I have a slight little accent, but I don't speak no Hebrew. I had a learning disability. So when I came to America, I had to give up Hebrew to learn English. And I'm embarrassed about it all the time. Lyor Cohen can't speak Hebrew. I'm as embarrassed that I've made such a great living feeding my family and not playing an instrument. And I would have liked to have played an instrument. But I went to piano lessons with a teacher that struck my fingers every time I hit a bad note. Till one day, my hands were bloody. So those are the, two regrets. I agree that I think it would be nice to help people learn an instrument and play instruments, I think that the world will be a better place, for sure.
So is your question, because you said use the Elvis and the music class and how it failed him, is that to say how you're wondering if music class should be helping more people to get into the music business? I just want to have the correct understanding of your question. I didn't have me personally. I didn't have a lot of experience with music class, and then I mean, without telling too much of my age, you know, but I was grew up a little just a touch earlier than Lyor. Probably overlap together, but I was Jamaican, so I am Jamaican. You know, so I said was. I'm Jamaican, and that wasn't very accepted in the hip hop community because being Jamaican was usually, to give you a good understanding, the Jamaican kids ran the hip hop kids out of the park in the 70s, so they ruled. So, but I wanted to play hip hop, so I kind of lost the accent on purpose and everything else. And in school, even though I was into DJing, which wasn't my first love, I tried to write lyrics. I wasn't good. I had 2 left feet, so the breakdance was out. So I noticed that the DJ seems to get a lot of attention, probably a maximum attention back then. But when I used to see the kids going to do music, I didn't gravitate to it. I took piano lessons, and it was horrible for me. I didn't like it, you know. It didn't. I didn't love it. I don't know if, you know, especially now, 2019, you know, in how a kid can have his studio set up, download a program, kind of download an app onto his phone. I'm not sure if it's gonna, at least for hip hop, I can speak. You know, Lyor could tell you about the other parts of music. I don't know if that mesh is going to happen again. Like maybe I think for producers are still doing that, but for me, I didn't know, and I did not know Elvis failed music class. So that I learned something today. I didn't know.
So Flex, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Lyor. I learned so much about you. I've known this man so long. I learned so much today.
Flex actually had a medical issue last week when Kelly called to see if he would participate in doing so. He immediately said yes. His wife said, I don't know how you're going to make it, but I really do appreciate everything that you do for me and for the culture, for New York City. Thank you so very much for everything you do.
Thank you, Lyor. Thank you so much.
And to my fellow Canes, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you for spending some time with me. I appreciate it, and I hope that you got something out of it, and go Canes, okay? Thanks.
But watch the guard get the tongue is the trigger, cause I'm real fast. Let on some rhythm at 'em, let 'em feel the blast. Penetrated a crazy rate, this ain't 38. Hit 'em at point blank range.